Now we are going to be talking about marketing. It can be a little bit intimidating to make your values clear. We talked a little bit about that earlier, how to make your values clear, how to talk about sustainability with your clients, just putting it out into the world. It can be a little intimidating. But luckily, we have a panel of experts here with us coming up from the United States, crossing the border here to chat with us. We are very lucky to have Hannah, Susan, and Marla, and I'm going to invite them up. And as they're coming up here, I want to mention that they are founding members of the group called Emerald Hour, which is a group based in Seattle designed to inspire and empower wedding professionals to create more sustainable events in the Pacific Northwest. They've been a huge, huge inspiration for us, and they have brought together an incredible group of vendors. They've hosted sustainable wedding shows. They've got this incredible green swaps guide. We emailed that out yesterday, but if you haven't checked it out, super great resource, both for vendors and for couples. We'll talk about that a little bit today. And they really are global leaders in making sustainable weddings happen. So please welcome Hannah, Susan, and Marla. So much like the last one, I'm just going to facilitate with a couple of questions here, and then we'll open it to the floor. Before I do, though, the three of you own very different businesses as well as contributing to Emerald Hour. Maybe we can just go across the panel, and can you tell us briefly about your business and what you do in the industry?
Hi, I'm Susan, and my company is called Celebrations for Every Season, and it's a vintage party rental company. So I go to thrift stores and antique stores, and I buy all that pretty china and glassware and everything. And so I set the tables, and I also do flowers for the tables.
I'm Marla. I own Marla Manis Photography. I do all sorts of stuff, but I'm mostly doing adventure elopements and shooting in Washington's national parks.
It on now? Oh, cool. I'm Hannah. I'm the owner of the Hummingbird Event Co. So I'm a wedding planner, but I also specialize in elopements. I've just found myself really drawn to the smaller, more intimate weddings. So I get to work with these ladies a lot, which is wonderful.
Great. Okay, so we'll talk a little bit about your individual businesses in a bit. But before we do, can you tell us a little bit about Emerald Hour and what you do through that organization?
Yes. So Emerald Hour started with a conversation several years ago, and by conversation I more mean like a rant between a couple wedding vendors, including myself. We just got started talking about how wasteful weddings could be. This was also right in the middle of the pandemic, so I think we were all just a little annoyed at life in general. So we started ranting about how wasteful weddings were and came together and just started talking more regularly, and it seemed so important, and it didn't really seem like a lot of people were talking about it in the Pacific Northwest, which was just very surprising considering how sustainable like this whole region is. So we wanted to do something. So we had a lot of phone calls and brainstorming sessions and a very magical overnight retreat that the three of us were at with a few other vendors. And it just affirmed how important sustainability was to vendors in our region. But also just as importantly, it made it very clear how important community and connection was. That was the big takeaway from the weekend. I was like, wow, there's other vendors who feel exactly the same way as us. It's not just us, we're not in it alone. So we decided to form an organization, which is Emerald Hour. From the beginning, we had a lot of conversations about who the organization would be for, and ultimately we decided that wedding vendors would be the target instead of couples. So we think that, over the course of a wedding vendor's career, you can impact, dozens, if not hundreds of weddings versus couples who are hopefully only getting married one time. So we just, designed our organization for wedding pros while making it very welcoming. That's one of our core values as an organization, is no matter where you're at in your sustainability journey, we would love for you to join us.
Awesome. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about marketing then, because I think one of the things that you three do really, really well, both through Emerald Hour but through your individual channels, is make your values clear and make your efforts and insight into sustainable weddings really clear. And I think that as vendors, we can be a little bit worried about making that happen on our social channels, right? Or even on our website. And I think we've had this conversation with some vendors before as well, and we also went through it. Like, if we put that out there in the world, is it going to deter some clients? Or are we only going to get a certain type of client coming to us? And I wonder, because you talk so much about sustainable weddings on your channels, do you find that that has deterred people, or have your bookings changed since you started talking about this?
So I have found that I don't know actually if my bookings have increased or decreased. I do know that they've changed as I've gotten more open with my values in my social media and my website, and just in conversations with my clients. It has changed. It has gotten smoother. It's gotten better. It's gotten warmer. It's just, it does repel certain people. But that's actually a good thing because it also attracts other people. And I have found from in the past when I wasn't so open about it, and I might just attract someone by the pretty table that I could put together for them, but then they were showing up with plastic cups for the tables and plastic water bottles and all these things that I was just like, oh no, here we go. But because I hadn't been, upfront enough with them and clear, it happened, and I didn't say anything to them at the time, but I was just like, gritting my teeth and not happy about it. And so as I've just been more open, it's just become more comfortable, and it does repel certain people and it attracts certain people. But I believe that those are both good, because you just want to attract, your ideal client, right? That's what we all want, because then when you have with those people that you're working with, it is smooth and it is joyful, and I just feel more relaxed when I'm working with them. I'm not worrying about what they're doing, or they're not pushing me to do something that I don't think is right. So it just seems to go really smoothly. And so sometimes after a call, we don't work together because I can tell that they're uncomfortable or I'm uncomfortable. And so it's okay to have those conversations and to have it be the repelling and the attracting, because they're both good. Another thing in Emerald Hour this year, we have now put in a requirement for our members that everybody is required to have a sustainability statement on their website. And a lot of our members already had this, but a lot of them didn't. And actually the deadline is March 1st, so that's not all done yet. And we're actually gonna work with them. Actually, after talking through a lot of these issues and thinking about coming here this weekend, we decided that we're gonna do something kind of similar to this with our members, just to help them get more comfortable with it. Again, some people already have it on their website. And that's great. And maybe they can help encourage people that don't have it yet. They're not sure what to say. Where do I put it? How much should I say? And so we're just working through it all together, because it is a journey, and we're all just here to support each other and help each other. But it is also very important to not just say, oh, I'm a member of Emerald Hour, or yeah, I believe in sustainability. Well, what does that mean to you? And how are you going to express that? And so write about it and show it. And well, I'll stop there. I'm talking a lot. So.
No worries. We're here to listen. Yeah, that's so cool. I imagine, as somebody who designed tablescapes, the red Solo cups that slowly enter your life must be the bane of your existence. Yeah. We'll talk about that later. So one of the things I think that you do very well, again, on your channels is these are not just places to book new clients. They're also places to inspire and educate potential clients, which is a really cool use of your network, your marketing channels. And I wonder if you can speak a little bit to the importance of being mindful about the kind of weddings you're sharing on your websites, through your channels, and what kind of impact you're hoping to have as you are, again, inspiring and educating people who come and visit those channels.
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the first things I remember learning as a photographer when I was seeking any sort of education is you hear, show what you want to shoot. So whether you are trying to get into barn weddings or higher end weddings, or you want to showcase diversity or sustainability, you really need to put that out into the world to attract that back to yourself. And I really think that applies to every vendor category. And especially, I think it's so important to be mindful because couples don't know what they want, right? And so they see things on Instagram and on Pinterest, and I think, if we're not careful about what we're putting out there and, showing, this is what you can be aspiring to, this is what your wedding should look like, it's really easy to create FOMO and a sense of inadequacy that leads to couples feeling like they should be caring more about an extravagant aesthetic for their wedding rather than focusing on the things that really matter to them. And so I think that's why it's so important for every vendor to really be mindful of what they're putting out there and what you're showing as an example for potential clients.
And that goes back a lot to the conversations we had earlier in the day with Barbara and being mindful. I mean, partly that means connecting with your clients and figuring out what is important to them. But as you say, sometimes they don't know. And so facilitating that conversation is part of what we bring to the table as vendors, right? So it's very cool. That said, I think there's a lot of pressure as vendors to think about, and when we're talking about sustainability, is to get it right. And you feel like, oh, if I don't have this 100% right, should I be talking about it? Should I be sharing about it? If I don't know 100% or I don't have examples of exactly what I should be doing, can you speak to that a little bit about, how has that ever worried you? And what would you recommend to people who are maybe worried about saying or doing the wrong thing?
Yes, I worry about it all the time, to be honest, because as an imperfect person with imperfect practices, it's really scary to put yourself out there. Even if you're not saying, I am the foremost expert on sustainability, I sit on panels all the time, speaking loudly about your values can be really intimidating if there's ever been a moment where you did not practice exactly what you preach. But I think it's more important for us to be vocal about the things that matter to us rather than obsessing over perfection, especially since we're not asking our couples to be perfect and we don't expect other vendors to be perfect. So sometimes it's like, why am I demanding that of myself? Doesn't seem fair.
And then on the other side of that, I do want to recognize that greenwashing is like a very valid concern. When a business is misrepresenting their practices or claiming to be sustainable just because they think it's trendy or it will get them more clients, I think that's incredibly harmful. So, by just being authentic and honest, that really prevents greenwashing. And it also, I think, encourages other wedding vendors to share where they're at and just do their best, even if it's not perfect. So I know in our organization, for example, we have some wonderful florists and flower farmers, and they have great statements on their websites. Like, we try as much as we can to use locally grown blooms, but based on weather patterns or unexpected snowstorms, we may have to source elsewhere. And so it's just being honest. Not everything will be perfect or go to plan, but that's okay. How much better is it that we're trying than not trying at all?
Yeah, and I feel like sometimes sharing those imperfect moments actually helps prevent that greenwashing, right? People can transparently see that you're trying. You're not getting it right all the time, but that goes back to our other panel too, and Sarah was talking a little bit about that, Dan was talking about that, Danushi, if you're sharing about the rats, people know that's the reality that's going on behind there, right? Yeah, you're not just putting out a blanket statement and saying, I'm sustainable, you're living it every day, right? So, a really great resource that you've developed to help vendors with this is the Green Swaps Guide. This is a really, really cool resource. Again, it's in your email, check it out. But I wonder if you can tell us a little bit about the Green Swaps Guide and how you can use it in communication with clients or with vendors to promote better action.
Yeah, so the Green Swaps Guide was the very first resource we ever created. We spent a long time on it. If you open it, you'll be like, wow, this is really long. But it's full of green swaps, which is a fun term we coined to describe just an educational tidbit or just an action that a vendor could do that's more sustainable than not doing it. So we have swaps for all types of vendor categories, as well as swaps that apply to everyone. But the guide, more than anything, is just inspiration. I think it's a good place to start if you don't know what you're doing. It's just all types of ideas from like banking to very specific practices, like sourcing locally. It's also free and available on our website like indefinitely. That was really important to us from day one, is not to hide this knowledge behind a paywall. So, we thought about maybe it's only available to our members, but I think the more vendors out there who have this tool, the better. It's like the wider it gets shared, like the more knowledge that we can all have. So I think Marla's going to talk more about our couples guide as well.
Yeah, so, and the other thing that I really love about our green swaps guide for our vendors is, like Hannah said, the first part is all about universal swaps that can apply to any vendor category. I think it's really easy to kind of point fingers at, the kind of vendors that we think are more the pillars of sustainability, if we're talking about florists and caterers and venues. But there are actions that every vendor category can take. So that's one thing that I love about our green swaps guide. But then last year, in advance of our Sustainable Wedding show that we put on in Seattle, we also launched our Green Swaps Guide for Couples, which is, of course, full of green swaps that they can make when they're planning their weddings. And it's kind of organized, I think, into like low-cost and no-cost swaps that they can make that would be really easy to implement for any budget, as well as like the most impactful things that you can do to make your day more sustainable. So I like that.
And I feel like that's an amazing resource because, often when we go to a wedding and we're working with the people in this room, we're blown away by the initiatives that they have going on. It's amazing. Sometimes the most wasteful weddings are the DIY ones, where we get there and maybe that couple hasn't had experience planning a wedding before. And there are some like low-hanging fruit that could have been changed. With a guide like that, or with inspiration coming from all of our different channels, often those are the ones where we walk in and go, I wish they had, a planner, a caterer, all the different things that could have helped prevent a lot of the waste that comes at the end of these. Yeah. So if you could give some advice to a vendor who wants to talk more about their sustainable practices in their marketing, what would you say?
So I would say just start small. Start with something that you really care about and share about that. You don't have to be an expert. None of us are experts. I'm sure there are experts out there, but you don't have to be one, right? You just choose something that you really care about and share about that. An example is I really care about getting rid of red Solo cups, clear plastic cups, and those godforsaken plastic water bottles that people feel compelled to stop by Costco and get, 6 dozen of them and hand them out to their guests, and then they put them on my pretty table. Makes me so angry. So I decided to do something about it, and just starting this year, so I have all these really pretty glass bottles. They're from wine, okay, that I may or may not have consumed, and I soaked the labels off, and now that they're all sparkly and they're just beautiful, right? So I'm providing these now to my couples for free because that's an easy win for me, right? It makes everything better. It's not a big deal for me to offer that for free. So I'm not saying give away your services for free, but for me this is a very easy freebie to give. And so I bring these, and I also will bring a big glass, water dispenser if they want that, especially if it's going to be a hot summer day, and I'll bring a dozen extra little water glasses that are glass, right? And so these are just simple things I can do because I care about not even just what they look like on the table, although that does bother me. But what I really care about is that plastic water bottles are just a disaster for the planet, right? From beginning to end, in every single way, they're terrible. And so something I care about, so I talk to my clients about it. And of course, for them, I don't do all this downer stuff I just said to you. I make it fun, right? I'm like, oh, they're so pretty, and this is what you can do with them. And just like when you're at a nice restaurant, and they will bring you the glass water bottle, and it's on the table, you can refill as you wish. It's just it's comfortable, it's good hospitality for your guests. So that's one thing I do. And another thing I'm really passionate about are wildflowers and just flowers in general. And so I talk to my clients a lot about what can we do with the flowers on your table so that they are fresh, they are local, they are seasonal. And so they're grown in ways that are healthy for the farmers and for you to have on your table, because we don't want you to have a bunch of things that have been flown across the planet that are doused in toxic chemicals and all that stuff. So I care a lot about flowers, so I talk to my clients a lot about the flowers that they're going to be on their table. So just keep it simple, keep it small, keep it personal, and they'll be able to relate to that. And you'll feel more comfortable if it's just something that's kind of near and dear to your heart, right? So don't worry about being an expert. Nobody needs you to be. Just do the thing that you can do, and then if you can build on that and do another thing, and just kind of add to your priorities or your skills or your things you can offer that to your clients, and it will just kind of build naturally. So yeah, I just say don't be afraid to start, and then just kind of build from there.
Awesome. Okay, I have asked all my questions.
Sorry,
You have one more
I
thing.
forgot. I had one more thing. Share about it in your social media, and don't be afraid to repeat yourself, right? Because we all know that even the people that follow you enthusiastically do not see all of your posts, right? So fun. So just, keep talking about it. And one of the easiest things you can do, of course, is get something on your website, because then it's always there. They can always see it. It doesn't ever go away. And you can add to it and edit it and change it as your efforts change and kind of your different commitments or priorities change, but that's yours. And so don't be afraid to put it on your website and to repeat yourself in your social media.
Okay, I'm going to wrap it up there. Thank you so much to the three of you for sharing your knowledge and your insight. We really, really appreciate it. Thank you to Susan, Marla, and Hannah.